What's going on, Dystopians? And welcome back to another episode of the Dystopian podcast. I am joined today by a man who really needs no introduction after the New Zealand tour, Mr. Robert Burridge. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, dude, it's a pleasure. We got about 5 inches of snow on the ground today. We got putting league tonight. It's going to be an interesting drive, but it should be fun nonetheless.
Yeah, where in the US are you?
I'm up in Pennsylvania. Um,
Oh yeah, cold.
but it's like I'm down on the southern side, so it's we're right around like the Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia clump. So it's really nice. I mean, I made it to Lynchburg in 3 hours, which was really cool. But I can also
That
be
is
to New
nice.
York in like 4 hours. So, but
How
definitely
are
definitely
you
not the
close to
Texas
Failure
weather.
Lake?
Am I close to
You close
Failure?
to
Did you say?
Yeah.
Yes, I am about an hour and a half from Failure. Are you coming up at all? You got any plans to come up this year?
It depends a little bit because I know the Go Throw Tour is heading there for the Failure Lake Invitational.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so that might be something that I end up doing. And
Yeah.
then, you know, there's multiple tournaments that week with, Maine states being that week and Canadian Nationals being there's just a lot of really good tournaments that week, and so it'll just depend a little bit on priorities and where we want to be.
Sure, absolutely, man. I completely understand. I mean, you never know where that road's gonna lead you. I can only imagine what it's like actually being in your shoes and having to make those decisions. But speaking of the intro, the New Zealand tour, man. I mean, you're just grabbing podiums, grabbing ace. I mean, you had a heck of
Yeah,
a time over there.
I had this that stretch of four tournaments in 5 weeks might have been the best I've played in that sort of stretch ever,
Yeah.
which is a really, really nice way to start the year.
Oh yeah, I mean that's definitely a heck of a way to cap it off. And I mean, like you said, the season even hasn't even started yet, and you're already out there rocking and rolling. I mean, it looks like you're feeling super comfortable with that bag. That harp is as looks like it's been your baby lately, and you seem really confident and comfortable, man.
Yeah, the harp. I have a few harps, and then I have a soft justice that I've been throwing that is just so overstable.
The red, I think, is red, right?
And they're turquoise, like
Oh, the
bluish
the
green.
blue one. Okay, yep, yep.
And that thing just, yeah, I feel really confident in my bag, and it's been nice sort of trying out new things and seeing what makes the bag, and being away from Lone Star for the first time in a few years is, there was a little bit of shock factor and taking time to figure out my bag again. And really the only thing I feel like I need to figure out at this point is mid ranges, but that'll come with time.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, I'm sure that, like you said, it's gonna be a transition period to where you had your bag so locked in and knew exactly what you were throwing at every shot you stepped up to, and now it's like, well, I could do this or I could do that. So I'm sure there's some turmoil there, but I mean, like the proof's in the pudding, man. It seems like you've been making some pretty good decisions. So.
hmm As well as putting. My putting's usually been the weakest part of my game, and there were definitely points in New Zealand where, it showed that putting wasn't everything that it needs to be.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but overall, I mean, similarly with putting, my putting was it was good compared to compared to the last couple of years. And I credit that a little to, being able to switch or find something similar to the Blue Bonnets from Lone Star
Mhm.
and being able to transition pretty fast and just learning what they do in wind and just I don't know. I need to shout out my good friend Jaden Rye, who I think will be on a good bit of the tour,
Okay. Okay.
because uh, he gave me a good amount of stuff that's currently in my bag
Right on.
that he knew was good. And so I really have to thank him for that.
Oh, dude, absolutely. It's nice to have somebody in the corner who can be like, "Hey, this is good stuff."
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better. And, it's the same for him or pretty much anybody who needs it. I have thousands of discs at home with my dad because we
Sure.
both played amateurs for a long time. And so it's a little bit of like, if you need something, I probably have it.
And it's so interesting to see like what this off season has done, and it's funny because like I talked to the disc golf world guys and disc golf dumpster fire and Tennessee twos, and just a couple of those guys were in a group chat together, and it's like we've been talking about like, hey, is this like one of the greatest, if not the greatest, off seasons that disc golf's ever seen? And I was like, I don't know. This is the first off season I've ever been a part of. So they've all been kind of roasting me a little bit. But I mean,
Hmm.
to see, all of this movement and what's going on, and, you know, wondering where you'll land. And I mean, we all kind of feel like we know, but seeing Emily go to Innova and then Germ go to MVP and then just all this crazy movement. And then Ricky comes and caps it off. And it's just like, man, this is going to be a cool 2025, and I'm just really excited to see what that kind of. It's almost like a new motivation for some of you guys, where you're going out and you're proving, okay, I can make that next step. And I mean, dude, you've got the resume. I mean, you're 2021 AM, 2022 national or college champ, 2022 roadie. Like, you got the resume, and I don't see why, in 5-10 years. I mean, a lot of you guys are going to be the names in the game, and I'm just excited to see it happen, man. It's super cool to watch you guys go out there and just throw a piece of plastic 500 feet. It's insane.
I mean, it's regarding the off season. I mean, this has been one of the wildest off seasons since, like, I'd argue since Paul left Innova
Mm-hmm.
because no one ever thought that Paul would leave Innova. And then he did, went to Discraft, and then, won another one or two world titles with Discraft.
Yeah, it's
And
true.
then, you get to the point where Ricky went to Innova from uh, Latitude, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, he went to Innova from Latitude, and that was it was a little bit of a shock just because Ricky was so good with trilogy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and but also people were like, well, it's Innova, of course they got Ricky. Ricky's a two-time world title, yada yada yada. Of course Innova's going to pick him up. And then going back to DD, it was also a little less of a shock because back to trilogy, back to that, the daggers, the harps, the felons, the explorers, compasses, everything that he's loved for a long time. And he's been playing just, if Gannon didn't exist, Ricky probably would have had the best season ever
Ever.
last season.
Oh my gosh, and the stats on that are crazy. You're not lying, dude. We talked about that the other day in the group chat. If Gannon didn't exist, Ricky would have won like I think it was 7 tournaments last year.
Seven more, I think,
Yeah.
than what he did. And that was just insane because then what you don't talk about is what the confidence of winning, a couple more gives Ricky,
Sure.
and Ricky's one of the most dangerous players with confidence in the game.
Yeah, he gets locked in, and it's definitely dangerous.
Yeah. And that's what we don't see is what that effect that another win, another two wins could give a player, especially of Ricky's caliber.
Mm,
And it's
that's a good.
just
That's a good
insane
quote.
to see.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to see, all of the new life on tour. You talked about Jaden, and we talked about Aiden Scott, and Micah Groth, and all these guys that are coming up and are real young kids that are just slingers from the and it's insane to see you guys come in, and it's so encouraging. Like, I've only been playing disc golf for a year and a half. I found it through
Mhm.
therapy, and it's been incredible for me where it's taken me. And I mean, dude, I'm sitting here talking to you right now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's incredible what a year and a half has done. And I mean, I just used to do all this stuff for my job. This was just something that was going to be fun, and it kind of took off, and it's been way more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
So I'm just excited to see what you guys do in the next 5-10 years, and where disc golf goes in the next 5-10 years. You know how it progresses and what it's going to look like, and I'm excited to see what the landscape looks like, man.
Yeah, I'm interested to know what is going to happen, especially since it's a good way to say this. It seems like the COVID bump or COVID boost is dropping off a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that's too much speculation or too much, oh, I'm not sure, but it seems like it. I'm pretty confident that the COVID boost is close to over. And I think companies are starting to realize better, especially the newer companies, how they make money and what the best way is approaching sponsorships and, whether that means, allotments, whether that means, salaries, whether that means whatever else. Companies are starting to understand what is a good deal for them and what's a good deal for the player and are finding that middle ground. And so I think contracts, even, now and going forward, are going to look different than they did, 2019 through 2022,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 23, probably 23. But I think contracts are going to look different going forward. And I think, I think we're going to see who, is committed to the game and wants to be there for the long haul.
For sure, for sure, and I mean that's a great way to put it, honestly, because I really feel like that's what is happening. The COVID bump happened. We had this big explosion that I wasn't even a part of, and then I came in, and I'm a post COVID golfer, and
Hmm.
so I've seen the people who have the 3 discs and go out and do it for fun, and I've seen the guy who started in 2020 and now has 2,000 discs in his basement. So
Hmm.
there's both sides of the spectrum, but it's like you said, it's in that 5 year time. Who is going to fall off, who's going to really grow up, and who's going to start showing out, and it's really going to determine, I think, what the landscape of the game looks like. I think the movement with Ollie and the juniors and all of that going on, I think that's a huge benefit to the sport and the game. Like tonight at putting league, we're having kids night. Like I'm taking my 8-year-old daughter to putting league. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
I'm putting a disc in her hand, and she's gonna go have fun. And we made a special line for him. And I got a bunch of stickers for him. And OTB's just sent me a little hookup for a giveaway I'm doing. And I'm just gonna pass it back, man, and pay it forward, and just continue to try to grow the game. And I think that's really what it's going to take over the next 5 years is getting the kids involved, because I'll be
Hmm.
completely transparent. I got Dooms. I was working with Doomsday, got them to hook me up with a set of discs for the high school, and approached the high school, and they were like, we don't want them. And I was like, what do you mean? And they just don't, the kids aren't interested in it. So my thought initially changed to, okay, well, if the high schoolers don't have it, then they really haven't had any saturation to it. And to think about it, they
Hmm.
probably wouldn't have. So let's go talk to the middle schools and see what the middle schools think. So I'm working with that. I'm also working with my local church. I'm trying to get in there. I play on the band there, and I've been working with the youth group a little bit. So I think that would be a good end, just to get some youth out on the course. And it's like I said, man, I think that's really where the heart of this game lies right now, is in the 15-year-olds. You know what I mean?
Hmm. 15 and younger. Absolutely. I think, I met Sarah Wadsworth in New Zealand, and she's won, I think, junior worlds multiple times, is I think a junior record holder as well for the FJ, for at least one FJ division.
Right.
I don't know her resume as well as I probably should, but she's a crusher, and she's an amazing person. And I think similarly to how I hear a lot of people getting into the sport, it's family, it's parents, it's brothers, sisters getting them into it, being like, hey, have you tried this before?
Yeah.
And then it's friends after that, like, hey, I found this cool game. Do you want to come try it? And, if they like it, then they're going to continue. Like, I just, I found so many friends and good people through the game, especially when I was first starting. And that, my local club over at, I think, Friendswood Disc Golf Club. Yeah, they at a course that no longer exists, very sadly. My dad and I were just out playing a course to like add it to our list of courses we played in the area.
Mhm.
And they were having a mini or a league, I guess now that, they were setting up and we got invited to try and we are like, yeah, sure, we'll join. And then that became a bi-weekly tradition, I think. And it was just, those are the interactions that if they wouldn't have happened, if the community wouldn't have been as accepting, as open as, they are, then I probably wouldn't be here. I'm here because, people saw me throwing and were like, hey, do you want to try playing in a mini? And I'm very thankful to them for that.
It's kind of crazy because you never know where that next door is going to open or where that walking through that door is going to lead you. And I mean, we talked about this a little earlier, but like that's what happened to me at Worlds. I went to Worlds. It was my first ever event that I'd ever been to. And my buddy was supposed to go with me, who's a touring musician, and he knew a couple of the pros, and he was like, just go up to these people and tell them that you know me. And everybody was just super accepting. And then the alt mart happened, and then it was just like
Hmm.
I had 5 or 6 homies the whole week. It was so cool. Um, and I don't know if you remember this. I actually ran into you one time on New London. I had Hebe's Mockingbird, and I walked up and asked you if it was yours because I was like, well, you're the one, And I figured if anybody, I'd ask you first. And I think you were on a card. I don't know if Robbie C was caddying for you or Robbie C was caddying for somebody on the card. And I kind of waved
Yeah,
waved at him and then just dipped out. but
yeah,
but it was a ton of
yeah.
fun, and like you said, I mean, it's such an accepting community, and I think that's why disc golf is the second fastest growing sport in America right now.
Hmm. And Robbie C was caddying for Sully. Actually, I remember that.
Okay.
That was round two. I played with Sully, I think, maybe one. Round one,
Yeah, it was
and
first
that
day.
was yeah, it was round one. I played with Sully. Um, yeah, and the community is in such a way where people are accepting, people are nice, and pros. I'm going to say generally understand that not everyone who's watching or is there in person knows, you know, the high, the like very high level professional etiquette. And so a lot of times if, people are moving behind the basket or walking down a fairway, we'll just sort of wave and be like, hey, just, heads up,
Yeah.
don't get hit.
Yeah.
We're going to throw at you. Just stay still for a second. And, the sport is growing to a point where, especially on the pro tour at majors, that will become a little more, if a spectator's there, they'll probably go through a little briefing where it's like, hey, just, someone throwing, stay still. You're behind the basket, stay still,
Mhm.
and like stay quiet when they're throwing. I think that's a very plausible thing to happen soon. And it'll be interesting to see how quickly the sport grows in the next few years. Because I think a couple options are that it kind of stagnates after the COVID boost if they're not careful,
Mhm.
because it's very easy to be like, well, we had this growth and times of downturn are normal, which they are, but then to not try to push to get more people in the sport actively is would be a mistake, I think.
For sure. They've got to mitigate that in some way cuz like you said, I mean, it's inevitable. like there's gonna be a fall off, but if as long as they work to build that core and make sure, I mean, we just broke 300,000, so that's
Hmm.
cool, and they've continued to do what they're doing on the Pro Tour side, and like you said, they've really just got to kind of, they're gonna have to figure it out because it's inevitable. Like you said, it's gonna happen, and the next, like you said, and the like we've talked about, the next 3 to 5 years are really gonna be a detrimental time period for disc golf, and if this thing's ever gonna pop, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And, I started this game not because, I wanted to try to make money at it. I started this game because I enjoy playing, and similarly to you, it was used as a sort of therapy for me while I was in college.
Mm-hmm.
It was it was my way to kind of get away from schoolwork, to get away from like college life and just relax on the course and just not think about anything else and just play. And it didn't matter what kind of day I was having. It was just nice to be out.
The way I found it, I told my therapist I had too many hobbies, and he asked me what my favorite two were, and I told him hiking and golfing, and he was like, "Well, then combine the two and go play disc golf." I was like, "All right, sounds good." And
Like,
it's exactly what you described, man. You just, and I talked about this with Steve in the last episode with OTB. Like, it was just started out as a thing where you go out and you put your headphones in and you have 5 pieces of plastic and you go out and try to not hit a tree, and
mhm.
it's turned into a big part of my life, and I'm thankful that it has, because I I am a better person because I have that release. I can go out and spend, an hour and a half in the woods, and that's another beautiful thing. You can play 18 holes in like an hour and a half if you find a small course.
Mhm.
It's not a 4 or 5 hour thing. It doesn't cost $120. It's not some crazy thing that you got to go do. If if you've never played disc golf before and you're this long into this podcast, good on you. But go buy a starter pack and go find a local course and go play some disc golf. You will not be sorry.
I absolutely agree with that. It's athletic, it's nice. It's a way to get out of the house. If you want to go with people you love, people you enjoy being around, it's a way of connecting with them while doing something active, while doing something that is good for you. And if you want to, if you just want time alone, it's one of the best places to do it is in the woods,
Yeah,
enjoying nature and just relaxing. And it's just so much. I'm not going to say better because everyone has, what they consider better, but for me, it is and always will be one of my favorite pastimes to do, regardless of if I'm doing it on the pro tour or not.
and that's the beautiful thing about it, man. You can be 6 or you can be 60, and you can go out and you can play disc golf at a somewhat competitive level. We always joke, and it's like you show up to a tournament, sign up for MA3, you walk up, and there's a 65-year-old with 2 discs and a 15-year-old, and they both beat you. It's like, man.
It sounds about right. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I see like memes of people like walking up to courses and seeing that like 13-year-old pop up in like an MA1 field and being like, "Well, I'm playing for second. All
Yeah.
right, cool."
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Seeing that one guy on the card and like, well, okay, I'm going to try to podium today. But
Yeah, and but it's always like I say always. It is from my experience almost always, a supportive, push in that way where it's like I might not be playing for the win, but I'm gonna try and play the best I can and just enjoy it.
for sure, for sure. Like I did, we have a league locally. I mean, I got it plugged in almost immediately, and I'm so thankful for 717 FTC and Chad Keener, Brad Lescalete, all those guys who got me started, man. And shout out to Lee Shaver, who was on my first card. I aced my 7th hole, and it was like I was hooked eventually, immediately from then on. And I got in with these guys, and it's so cool to watch it grow. And I mean, I did MA4 last year. I took ninth in league, so I was cool with that. And then in the off season, I've really been pushing. Got in with Power Disc Golf Academy. Just really been trying to get better, and so I'm gonna go play MA2 next year in league, and I'm gonna play MA3 tournaments, but I'm gonna try MA2 in league and just push myself because, I mean it's only going to make me better. I feel. I don't know what a pro would think about that, but in my head, that's how I feel.
Mhm. I mean, realistically, whatever makes you feel like you're getting better probably does make you get better.
It's such a
And that's
mental
one of the
thing.
cool things about it
Yeah.
is confidence is such a large part of the sport where you can only do so much physically, but after that, the confidence to do what you want to and need to do on the course is like more than anything else.
Yeah.
And you see that at every level.
Yeah. The confidence to stand. I have the right disc in my hand. I know where I'm throwing this disc. I know what angle I'm throwing it on. It's kind of funny. Like I always joke with the club members. I have kind of a bad juju. If you are MA1 or open and you play with me in a league round, you're about to play the worst round you've ever played. I don't know why that happens, but it's happened 3 times, so it's not just a trend anymore.
Yeah.
But no, and I love playing with those guys because it's almost funny. Like whenever they're having a bad day, it almost seems like they open up and have a little bit more fun because it's not like, oh, I'm out here playing for tag this week. It's, oh, okay, I'm not getting a tag this week. Let me throw a thumber on this hole, or let me throw a grenade, or do something
Hmm.
cool that I've never seen before. And then I can ask that question, hey, what did you throw there? How did you throw that? Why did you throw that? And um, like you said, it just gives you that opportunity to grow a little bit. So I think it'll be a cool experience, and worst comes to worst, I play MA2 again next year, and we go from there. But I
Hmm.
don't. We'll see where the road goes.
Yeah. And actually, going back, you're saying, being able to ask people like, oh, what did you throw? How did you throw it? Why did you throw it? Like those are the main three questions.
Yeah.
I ask those three questions probably like so many times during a pro tour round playing with people. I'm like, what did what did you throw? Because like I'm genuinely curious about what people throw and why.
Yeah.
Just because it's interesting to me where I'm like, playing with Germ over at the event he won at New Zealand Open, I think,
Mhm.
in Auckland. I mean, that's the first time I've played with him since I don't even know. First round in a long time, and
Right.
definitely the first one with his new MVP bag. And so I was, talking with him the whole round, like, hey, what'd you throw? Why that? Or I was talking with Ezra, who was on the card, about what he's throwing in his new Discraft bag. I
Mhm.
had so many rounds with Ezra during the tour down under, and being able to ask those questions and, kind of being able to have that camaraderie where it's like, oh, what did you throw? And then, we have that back and forth where it's like, well, I think it's better, with this distance driver shot on this because it, carries a little better, dies a little faster. And then they might go, oh, well, I, like a putter backhand or like the fairway because it sits better. And so having that back and forth of why we choose different shots highlights the differences in our game. And then, you know, that's just how people play. And then we get, similar-ish results overall. And it just shows that there's so many ways to do the same thing. And that's another fun thing about this sport.
Yeah, and I see. We were talking about memes earlier. It's always funny to see that meme of, oh, I threw a 5 speed. Oh, I threw a 13, and it's like,
Hmm.
but that's totally fine.
It is whatever works. And, sometimes, especially in a player's bag, they might be more comfortable, throwing an approach with, a mid range, like throwing something with a 4 speed or throwing something with a 1 speed or throwing something, zone-ish versus, Gator Justice, that 5 speed versus, Toro sitting at 3 speed, zone sitting at I guess 4 speed.
Yeah,
I think for
four-ish.
both of them,
Yeah. Actually, I think they're both
whatever that.
four,
I
but
think they're both 4 speeds. I think the harp's a 3 speed. Either way, but that the difference in how they feel, with that mid-range sort of feel where it's a little faster versus that kind of approach disc, I guess is a good way to say it, where it kind of has that blunt edge,
that fatter.
and
Yep. Yep.
mhm. And that's one thing I found was having both of those slots is crucial to my bag. And I actually learned that well on Lone Star, because they had the Walker, which was like 5.204, 5.304,
Yep.
and just so ridiculously overstable beaded 5 speed.
Yep. Love that disc.
And then the Horny Toad, which was, between a Zone and a Toro, but for me felt better than both.
Yeah.
And having both of those, I had something for, wood shots where I needed to shape certain things. I had different nose angles where I knew the putter wouldn't, die as hard if I threw it higher. And it was just having the breadth of shots by having both in the bag, especially when it comes to wind. And
And
it's just so much better to be able to throw different speeds for different shots because it gives you so many more options.
yeah, and it's good to hear a pro say that, because I lately, in my findings of this winter, basically, um, I used to throw super hyzer all the time. Everything was a big high speed, and then I found Daredevil. I don't know if you've ever thrown any of their stuff. They're a Canadian company. Um, but you were talking about that in the middle mid range. They have a disc called the Razorback,
Hmm.
and it's basically like an A5 and a Zone had a baby, and I
Hmm.
love this thing. But I've also started throwing Discraft lately, so I have two Razorbacks, a Zone, and then a Zone OS because
Hmm.
I just feel like I have those certain shots that I need that for. And now I used to carry two putters and that was it. I never had a throwing putter. Now
Hmm.
I have four throwing putters. So just
Hmm.
finding those little things to where, hey, I don't need 7 or 8 drivers. I need two really good drivers that I'm really comfortable with, and I need 2 or 3 of those that do different things depending on how I throw them. So
Hmm.
it's been cool, kind of mapping my bag out and finding what I'm comfy with versus just, hey, I got Innova and MVP and Discraft and DD and everything in my bag.
Hmm.
It's what works, and I think, like you said, it's really finding those slots of, hey, what fits your game and how you want to play.
Hmm. And that's a key. And I'm still filling out a few slots because I know what type of shots fit my game and what I'm most consistent throwing and anything like that where I'm just like, I know I need this slot.
Yeah.
These usually I'd say 3 to 4. I have 3 to 4 slots that I'm like, these are the most important in my bag. That if I have these, I can work with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That is fine. And right now, I have, going to coverage on for the tour down under, I had the old like Eric Oakley Chameleon Felon, I think, in my bag, and that
Mm-hmm.
one's just so overstable. Having something I can hit as hard as I want flat in pretty much any wind, and I know it's going to fade. Like
Yeah.
it's not going to turn. Maybe in a stiff headwind or right to left, it'll drift a little bit, but it'll always fight out. And that's one slot that I'm like, well, I need that.
Yeah.
Definitely need that. And then having, that overstable 5 speed for me, that more mid-range-ish. For me, I found a Justice recently where I used to throw Justices, I guess back in like 2019, 2020, before I got picked up by Innova too. And that was something I used to throw. And so kind of going back to those was, or has been nice, kind of knowing how they fly. And that's something I honestly find that's a more important slot to me than, the Harp Zone Toro, that slot. Give me a good 5 speed, I can make it work in any wind.
That's a good
And
that's a good little tidbit there.
yeah, it's for me, I found that if I have a good overstable approach 5 speed, I will be able to work more shots into my game than if I just have an overstable approach shot. And that's where I found my game evolving to, and that's okay because I have a lot of touch with forehand approach shots.
Yeah,
That's something I pride myself on. And so I have no problem slowing down a 5 speed.
just laying it in there, a little nose up and buttery.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, every company has their overstable distance disc. So it's a slot I need, but I'm never sitting there like, man, I'm never gonna find this in whatever company.
Yeah, and I mean, it seems like you talked about that core you were talking about earlier. It seems like literally General Felon Justice Harp and you're chilling right now.
I'd say enforcer.
And
The
for
generals are
okay,
a little straighter.
okay,
Generals are a little straighter. I'd consider the generals more like a destroyer,
okay,
I'd say. In my experience, generals have been closer to that destroyer mold where usually they'll have like
little flip up.
for me, yeah, a little flip up, brand new, and then beat into to flippier. And then enforcers are more on that, PD2 line where I can hit them flat and hard. And, if I beat one in, they'll, drift a little and turn, but I'm never sitting there like, oh, it's not going to fight back at the end.
Yeah,
And those are, I guess the PD2 slot is a slot that I rely on a fair bit, just super overstable, but still distance driver. Not the ridiculously overstable, not going to go everywhere, not going to go anywhere thing.
yeah, 350
But,
max super hook.
yeah, I'm talking, 450 while throwing it hard and flat to make sure it fades.
Yeah, putting it way
And,
out there.
that's that slot that, you know, is significantly easier to find depending on company. And I found it going forward, which is always nice. I always loved Simon's old PD2s,
Mm-hmm.
like watching coverage from 2016, 15 to like 2019 when he was throwing the PD2s that would just go forever.
Yeah, put them on a little
That
Annie and pan them out, man. Yeah.
mhm. And those are the shots that, I worked on because I was like, if he gets control of those are,
Dirty.
shots he can dial in really easily. And then we saw that in, 22, 21, 23 through that stretch, and he dialed that in and won, you
Yeah.
know. So it's just I always find overstable and just playing to the center plays better. And the more I play on tour, the more I go to that, honestly.
More you find that very true.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I mean it's very true because like up here in PA we play a lot of woods golf, man. Like it's a
Hmm.
lot of tight fairways and a lot of you know 250 foot par threes that you can easily take a five on. And I've found that it's a lot easier to take a three on that hole if you just throw a putter. You don't have to
Hmm.
throw a 7 speed and try to do something cool. You can throw a putter straight at the basket and then go pick it up and throw it again and then go pick it up and drop it in.
And that's the game plan is finding ways to attack without risking bogey. And that's as true on the pro tour as it is anywhere else where, as you get more confident, you can hit shots that you wouldn't try in, years or rounds prior because you're like, oh, I don't feel comfortable hitting that shot because I don't think I can.
It goes back to that confidence you spoke about earlier, man.
Hmm. And, throwing a 7 speed on that hole to that you might get a five on is something that, do in practice, see if you can do it. Spend some time on a hole like that. Throw distance drivers, throw your bag at it, see if you can ace it. Just enjoy it. Like I've done that so many times, just sit on a hole that I'm like, I want to ace this one. I'm just gonna take a bag of discs for this hole and just sit on it for a day.
Yeah, just
Those
hang
are some of
out.
my more fun days. Yeah, just hang out, say hi to people who are going through, especially on like local courses. It's just good, good people, good vibes, and no one is, it's very rare that someone is mad at you for sitting on a hole unless you don't let them play through.
Yeah.
But at that point, you probably shouldn't be on one hole all day if you're not going to let people play through.
Yeah, that's not cool. That's not cool.
Yeah.
I have one hole in particular. There's a course locally. It's called Rhodes Grove, and there is this hole, and it's just perfect. It's like a 190-foot just backhand island hole, elevated basket. It's just perfect, and I want it so bad. And I have spent, I think I'm up to 8 hours on this hole, and
Yeah.
I've hit band, basket, pole. I had one go in the chains and spit out like on a big hyzer. Like I've hit this basket every which way but Sunday, and I just can't get it to stick. So I think that's first warm day I get. I think I might have to make a trip out there and just take me a little picnic.
Honestly, not a bad idea. There's a hole on my local course. I think it's called Rudy Rodriguez. It I guess in the past few years got memorialized.
Okay.
Is a good way to say it. To him, it was called Taylor Lake Village. It used to be 18 holes, and then no, it used to be no, I think it used to be 18. And my dad used to take me out, and that was part of getting me in was playing that course because it had all shots. It had a peninsula shot. It had blind shots. It had wood shots. It had skip shots. Had everything you could ask for on a course. And then that got taken out because people in the neighborhood complained
Mm.
of discs going in their backyard.
Oh my.
So that got taken out. But then they added a new 9 hole, and you know one of the one of the holes there is just dead straight, a little bit uphill, like 200 feet. And I watched as my dad aced it in front of me like 5 times while I was hitting, chains, cage, band, you know,
Oh.
a ghost branch as it's trying to go in. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that iron
Never
leaf.
going in. Yeah, and I watched my dad ace it like 5 or 6 times before I finally got it, and I was like, "Oh my God, that took forever. Like that should not have been that hard."
Yeah, why did this take so long? Yeah, I've got a couple holes locally that are just like I've there's a place called Ditto Farms in Hagerstown, Maryland. If you are ever in the area, you should go play that course. It is that course and Whispering Falls and Greencastle are like our club's pride and joy, I guess is the best way to put it. Um,
Yeah.
but they're amazing, and Ditto has 2 pads and 2 baskets, so you can play technically 4 layouts, which is great.
Hmm.
But I've got 2 holes on the shorts where I've hit the number on the band twice, and
Yeah.
it's like taunting, you know.
Oh, I get it. I get it. I don't know. That's what's great about disc golf too, is that those are what makes you want to go back.
Hmm.
Because you're sitting there like, I will get this hole, and it's not necessarily even I'm gonna get back and I'm gonna shred. I'm gonna go back and I want to rethrow that hole.
Yeah,
I
that
want to get better at
vendetta.
that hole. And there's some holes on a few local courses that I have that I'm like, man, I need to go back just to practice that hole.
Hmm.
Even on the pro tour, there's a few holes that I'm like, I need to just work on that hole.
Yeah.
All the rest will be fine.
And I think something important you said like a little bit ago about finding a course that has all the shots because
Hmm.
we our local courses are great but they don't have all the shots. And I went to Worlds, and of course you can't go to a disc golf trip and not play disc golf, so I si-
Yep.
I signed up to play in the spectator tournament on the backside of Ivy Hill, which absolutely amazing. They did such a great job. Course was beautiful. Everything was beautiful. They let us use carts, which was super sick. Only time I've ever used a cart playing disc golf, so that was cool. Um,
Hmm.
and I walked up to hole one, and it was a 540-foot par four downhill at the bottom of a hill. And I looked at the guy next to me and said, I don't know what to throw. And it ended
Hmm.
up being a lot of that because I'd never played like golf course golf.
Yeah.
I'd never had a 600 foot par four. I'd never had a 400 foot par three that I just had to throw something out there and just let it fly. And that was really when I figured out that, like, having an overstable bag is only good in one setting. You've got to have that other
Hmm.
set of discs. And so it's been cool. And Brennan, my buddy, who I talked a little bit about earlier, he's good friends with Casey White and Matty O and a couple of those guys in Barsby. And he even stayed with me one day after a league round and was just like, hey, give me every disc in your bag and I'm going to throw it and you're going to see what your disc is actually supposed to do. And it was so eye opening to what an X step changes from going on a lateral X step to the T pad geometry of going to the corner and loading up and putting your hips in and just all those different things that go into a shot other than, hey, I need to throw this disc.
I mean, it's lining yourself up on a tee pad, going the right direction. It's making sure your pull through is in the right spot, and just it's why you see pros carry so many discs is because we don't want to have to change our bags for every course. We'll go through and we'll be like, I'm going to use, these or this set more during this tournament, or I'm going to use, these, few discs more during this tournament, and that's okay. But then, we still have all the other ones in case we get into a situation where we need
Exactly.
those discs.
That utility or whatever, sure.
Yeah, like I can't tell you how many times having a super flippy disc or a super overstable disc has changed how I score on a hole just because I can maneuver a shot
Mm-hmm.
more. Like those are the type of discs that oddly enough I rely on more than that like a straight disc is. I probably threw the super flippy or super overstable stuff 20 times more than something normal. And that's just how I am because I enjoy shaping shots and know how to control it. And that suits my game better than necessarily sitting there like, I need to force a straight shot here rather than going, I'll just flex something overstable.
Sure, sure. Just push it out there and hope it works or whatever. You can really feel again that confidence and just go out there and execute, man. That's a good point.
Hmm. And it all goes back to confidence, man. Always. And you know, that's why you see Paul, Ricky, and Gannon now sitting there like, I can and will beat you on any day.
Yeah.
And it's what made them so dangerous is because they believed it, and after that, you believed it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They'll make you.
And it's playing to the point where if you step up to a 35 footer, you want everyone on your card to look at it and go, "Yep, he's gonna make it."
Yeah.
And the second that happens, you have the confidence and the game to get there. And it's the same with any shot shape where, playing with Goose round three when he shot 14 down,
Oh my god. Insanity.
anything, any shot, I was like, he's gonna pipe it.
Yeah.
Just he's there, he's just on. And after the round, he kind of came to me on hole 18. I was like, some days things just work, and I was like, it was fun to watch, dude. That was really impressive, and congrats on a great round. Like I was genuinely happy for him, especially after the struggles he had to begin.
Yeah.
Seeing him be able to kind of shake it off and come back and trust the changes he made and do what he did was just impressive. And that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean that putt he's got going is lethal right now. And I mean, like you said, when you play 18 holes and putt under 150 feet on the day, it's not too hard to be that confident. And you're
Yep.
right. I mean, he was just slicing and dicing on that course, man. That was crazy.
It was ridiculous.
But, well, dude,
And
before we get you
yeah.
out of here, I just want to ask, do you have like a favorite moment from New Zealand? Could be on or off the course.
Uh, so, the easy answer there is, the win and winning in a playoff against Ezra,
Sure.
especially, we're not super close friends, but we are friends. He was the first person to give me a hug and seemed genuinely happy that, I won, which was incredible, especially seeing as it was my first actual win since like 2022.
Right on.
Um, I mean, we just did so much between bungee jumping, canyon swinging, hiking. Like I went and saw glowworms with Emily in caves. Those were wonderful.
That's so cool.
They're just there's so much to do. And like I have posts coming the next both today and tomorrow, one about disc golf and one about like everything else. Because there was just so much to do.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And such good people throughout. And I mean just the tour down under guys are incredible and are incredibly helpful. Like even now, if there's payout issues or issues with transferring or shipping stuff, you know I think some of my favorite moments I'll remember now and then, whether it's on the course or during like skins or a teaching clinic. Just good times with good people throughout. And so it's for me, it's hard to choose something off the course besides, I really did enjoy the canyon swing. I want to go back and do that.
That's awesome, man. I saw Chandler's clip of his swing, and it's amazing to see all the beauty behind you guys. I think that's been part of the coolest part of watching the coverage is not just watching you guys get out there and absolutely shred, but the places you're doing it are just freaking gorgeous, bro.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of like Europe and PCS back in 2023,
Okay.
where I hope to go back this year. But it was something where during the round and during warm-ups, I had to remember to just like look up and look around because it was just that amazing, that scenic to just be able to play there.
Yeah.
It was just incredible, and I can't wait to go back.
It just looks so gorgeous, and especially on that first course with the volcano in the background, and
Oh
like
yeah,
we talked about this with OTB. The fact that you guys were playing in a neighborhood on Brooker Ave where it was a really nice neighborhood that got leveled by an earthquake, and now it's just one of the best golf courses you can ever find.
hmm it was. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but that comes with time, and I think that's something going forward they'll do to that course, and I'm excited to see it a little cleaned up. But they have a great structure there for good disc golf.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main hubbub that I heard from that tournament was the road hole, where
Oh
if
yeah,
if you get in them reeds and trees, it's gone, and you could sit on the tee pad for a little while. I think they talked about that in the last round on Go Throw, but like it was one of those holes where it was just like you got to hit the shot or you're gonna be calling in the
finding it.
dogs.
Yeah, we were waiting there. I was on the card with Luke for that lead card last round, and we were
hmm
waiting there 30 minutes. It went from like 70, 75 degrees to 60 in the span of 30 minutes. I actually had to send Emily to the car to get me that like blue jacket that I
Yeah.
wore throughout the trip. I was like, I need you to just send me to get me that because I'm cold now. I really hope to be able to go back because just good people, and they did so much for us, and I can't express how thankful I am that I got to be a part of it for this past year.
I'm sure it's a blessing, and I'm sure it's been cool to experience and just kind of almost take a break from life a little bit and just kind of go over there and enjoy yourself. I mean,
Absolutely.
well, last thing before we get out of here, you got anything you want to promote, say, feel out, anything along those lines?
Go get my signature jersey on cardinal.com. It has a little bit of a New Zealand theme because, you know, I am thankful for them as well as loving the black and silver. And then, go support my other sponsors. They're all in my bio on Instagram. And, Great Lakes Disc is the most recent one of them. And they're my new shop sponsor for this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing where I go with them because, just again, good people doing good things.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I tell you what, that Cardinal jersey is sick, man. Kevin is going off. Like I'm so glad to see the team he's put together, and glad to see that you're a part of it, man. They're doing some big stuff over there. They are. I think they're kind of coming up as like the jersey in the game. I mean, they got you, they got Gannon. Kevin's doing his thing, man. He's out there rocking and rolling. So I was very happy to see you be a part of that. Definitely gonna pick that up, and we'll make sure we have that link down in the comments below for you guys, so you can go check that out as well. But dude, just want to say thank you, man. Appreciate you. You were one of the first pros I ever reached out to because I started throwing Lone Star, and I was like, hey, let me shoot my shot and see if this guy wants a caddy. And then I never went anywhere. But it's cool that a year and a half later, we're sitting here cutting it up on the podcast, man. I really appreciate you being here, dude.
Yeah, of course. I'm more than happy to be here, especially to promote and you know, I'm always happy to talk disc golf. I enjoy it more than I'm not gonna say more than I should, but it's something I can talk about. It's something I could do all day, every day, and it basically is at this point.
Yeah, my wife always tells me, "Is there anything else we can talk about other than disc golf?" I'm like, "Yeah, but you got to start the conversation."
It's like, yeah, if you don't want to talk about disc golf, you might have to start the conversation because,
Yeah,
it might be what I'm thinking about.
you drive the train on this one, but well, dude, again, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming out, and look forward to seeing you on tour. I'll be at MCO and MVP for sure. So make sure we catch up and get a picture, get a disc signed, and hang out a little bit, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot me a message when you get there. And we'll definitely set something up and hang out a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be there early. I'm coming down to Thursday because I'm
Hmm.
supposed to be caddying for Freddie. So we're gonna try to get a practice round in and have some fun. Dude, is gonna be a blast. I got 6 people coming with me. 3 of us have never had a bachelor party, so we,
Yeah,
we all have kids and wives now, so we can't have one now. But we're like, we're gonna do some stuff.
we're gonna enjoy it, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, keep at it, man. You're doing a great job. I love watching you. Love watching what you're doing. That forehand is just absolutely dirty. And get out there and have some fun, dude.
All right, will do, man. I appreciate it. We're gonna have a good year.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. We'll see you around. Dystopians, thank y'all so much for stopping by today. If you're new, hit that sub button. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.